express my concern that this might be the beginning of what would appear to be an ongoing wave of meteors and asteroids and even comets that are coming our way that could produce disastrous results if there's ever an impact.
Do you think that there is a connection between this increase in comets, meteors, and Planet X?
I absolutely do, and it's not welcome news, but I do believe that. I sent an email to Neil Freer, who was a very close personal friend of Zecharia Sitchin, the author, and I asked Neil. Neil wrote a book, by the way, I highly recommend it, called God Games. It's about what mankind's position should be vis-a-vis the Anunnaki, the beings from Planet X, when and if, assuming they exist, when and if they land. And basically he said that they owe us, because of the fact that we were used to dig for, as slaves, essentially, to dig for gold that they needed for their planet to line the atmosphere. Neil, I asked Neil point blank, and he said that he couldn't prove it, but he said it sure as hell looks that way.
That's a little hard to understand. If these Anunnaki can travel all that distance to this planet, why would they have to use humans as slaves instead of having the technology to mine the gold without having to use anyone?
I'm not an expert on mining gold in terms of extracting gold and what's, how that can be done.
Yeah.
A friend of mine brought up the very same, it's a very important, interesting question. In fact, I got to ask Giorgio is one of the people I want to ask about this, what his take on it is. It's a very important question.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer to it is.
Giorgio is going to be at the Contact in the Desert next weekend, August 9th through 11th. Tickets are still available. www.contactinthedesert.net. Michael Luckman's website, Exonation, is cosmicmajority.org. We talked about alien abductions, and of course Travis Walton, who is one of the most famous alien abduction cases ever to be recorded and is known worldwide, is going to be at the Contact in the Desert.
Yes.
What is your take on alien abductions, Michael? Why are people being abducted?
Well, that's a very important question, too. I'm not sure what the answer is. David Jacobs, who has written about this extensively from Temple University, he thinks it's part of a long-range program where there's a hybridization program where human-alien hybrids are being made by the extraterrestrials. I do know that many of or at least some of the abductees have reported being shown by their captors the immediate future of life here on Earth, and that it shows all sorts of terrible devastation going on, almost like looking at a short video or something. Wow. There's when it comes to the abduction thing, there were polls that were done that have indicated that the number of people across the world, a huge number of people have had abduction experiences. It's in the millions.
Years ago, when Tesla was experimenting with his free energy, there was an explosion over Tunguska in Russia.
Yes.
There are those who believe it had something to do with Tesla's experimentation. There are those who believe it was an an atmospheric explosion of a meteorite or a comet, and there are those who believe it was the impact of a UFO. What's your take on Tunguska, Mike?
My take on Tunguska, and of course we just had that not so long ago, just a few months ago, that terrible incident that happened over an area in Russia where there was a giant meteor, very, very powerful, unbelievably powerful, like as powerful as 30 Hiroshima bombs, I'm told, that impacted over Russia. I think that, in fact, and I've been hearing that scientists really believe that the Tunguska incident was as a result of a meteor. But since you mentioned Tesla, and of course it leveled a very large area, so it shows what it can do. Since you mentioned Tesla, though, I'm really a big Tesla fan. Tesla felt that he was, with all these inventions that he came up with, he felt that he was in touch with an extraterrestrial force or beings of some kind. I don't think he ever saw the beings, but he felt that, and that was his gut on it. And he said that these unbelievable inventions that he came up with that revolutionized the world, that he would see pictures of what the equipment actually looked like, what the machinery looked like, before he would go and create it. So he also thought that he might have that he picked up signals that might have come from Mars.
Was he actually targeted by the governments of the world for knowing too much or for wanting to give too much away?
Well, the terrible thing that happened to Tesla was that J.P. Morgan, the banker, took away his financing. They tore down the tower in Shoreham, Long Island, which was going to be a world communications, wireless world communications tower. In fact, we're using that as the logo. If you go to cosmicmajority.org, my website, you'll see that we've adopted that as the logo for the Cosmic Majority. He was just amazing for his time. I mean, we're talking about 100 years ago that he did all these things.
Whatever happened to him?
He died a natural death in a hotel here in New York City. But when he died, a lot of his research was confiscated. I mean, some of it still exists, and there's opening up a museum on Long Island. But definitely, agents came in and took, I guess, most of the material that he had stored in the hotel.
You know, speaking about your website, on the front page of your website, it says, "Prepare, don't panic. Our goals, the survival of mind, body, and spirit in these extremely challenging times, establishing peaceful contact with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, preparing to reach the next level in human evolution." What do you believe, or what do you see as the next step in human evolution?
It's really Rob, it's really anyone's guess. I mean, I would say that we're going to go much more into a psychic communication, telepathic communication with one another. That's one of the things that's going to happen. I think we're going to be more, the people who survive all of this, hopefully will be raised to a more spiritual level, and therefore a lot of the problems that we've had to endure hopefully will not be problems that will be continuing. Hopefully the wars will come to an end. Those are some of the areas that I think will come into play.
Do you think that the last days, as mentioned in the Bible, the apocalypse, are all part of what we're seeing now, Michael?
Well, I absolutely do. You know, I'm not particularly religious, but it's stunning to see comparisons. I mean, not only do we have plagues and all kinds of extreme weather events happening all over the world, and not just isolated events, but events that are happening on a daily basis. But you know, this thing, you see, there are things. For example, there's a pure red heifer is referred to in the Bible, in the Old Testament, regarding King Solomon's temple, and that at a time like this, at the crossroads, that basically it's a cow, a pure red heifer would be born. Well, a number of these extremely rare red heifers have been born. The Indians talk about a great white buffalo, also extremely rare, and that it would happen at a time like this. And there have been quite a few births, not a lot, but I would say just a handful, but that have occurred of buffalo. We've got plagues. We've got. There's even an Antichrist figure, if you want to believe that he exists, which is this Maitreya character that's being promoted by Benjamin Creme out of London. So there are, the Bible talks about the rivers running, red with blood. Well, it's not blood, but rivers have turned red. It just goes on and on.
And then, Michael, you've also got the third secret of Fatima, which apparently talks about apocalyptic floods due from an object of space.
It absolutely does, and that's something that I can't understand why. We've been trying to get the word out. It's the Vatican's most carefully guarded secret, but it's leaked out, and it has to do with a giant object coming toward us and causing flood not seen since the time of Noah.
So by all means and by all indications, these are the end times.
Well, I'm afraid that it's not good news, but I'm afraid that that's essentially what it is. And I think that the real question is, how much quality time do we have left? Now, I read a very disturbing report by scientists that was recently issued regarding New York City. The largest city, most important city in many ways in the world. And New York City they say, has maybe a few years left before it could be completely destroyed by flooding and by excessive heat. And we went through about a week ago, like about at least 10 days, maybe 2 weeks of near 100-degree weather and high humidity. Very
It was awful, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think that we are living that, and how many quality years we have is the real question. I don't know, but I do know that people are better off if they prepare to the degree that they're in a position to, because I understand that finances come into this, so where they're going to live and how they're going to live and what they're going to do. But I would, I think that people really need to look at their. I'm not telling people to run out and spend all of their money, but they really should spend a significant amount of money on survival. Supplies, food, water is going to be terribly important.
Michael, stand by. You and I have to take our break. We'll be back on the other side. Michael Luckman is my guest. More with Michael when we come back from this commercial break. Don't go away now. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com.